Hey, welcome everybody. Quick hits with Booney. World Series is set for 2024. Wanted to make sure we talked about it with you before anybody else. I'm Rich Herrera from the Infinity Sports Network. Of course, Bret Boone reaction. The 2024 World Series is set, and for the first time in 43 years, it'll be the Los Angeles Dodgers hosting the New York Yankees game one of the World Series, Bret.
I think that's what the TV people wanted. LA versus one thing it doesn't lack, Rich, is star power. I mean, you got the Otani Judge matchup and Yankees. I don't know. East Coast, West Coast. I think Mets Yankees would have been cool too. I think people would have been happy with that for that Subway Series. But watching these series, I think the best team won tonight. I think the Mets had an unbelievable run, and you're wondering going into Game 6, do they have any magic left in the tank? Because they beat some pretty good uh, teams coming in here. Nobody expected them to be here, and they mow through the Phillies like it's no big deal. And they got to this round. They gave the Dodgers a run, but in the end, they were too much. They got 4 or 5 guys in the lineup that at any time will hit a home run. They showed that tonight and ended up beating them 10-5. But looking forward to it. Game 1, Friday night
At
in LA.
Dodger Stadium. The
Yeah.
Dodgers will have home field advantage. So let's get into this World Series matchup for everybody here on the Bret Boone podcast. So let's start with the New York Yankees. We'll talk about your brother's team first. Yankees get off to an amazing start to begin the season, and they struggle a little bit around the All-Star break. Baltimore comes and catches them. The New York Yankees turn it back on. They get healthy at the right time. They get into the playoffs. And you know what? It was a hard fought American League Championship Series because the Cleveland Guardians, much like the Mets, were just not going to go away. But in the end, it was the New York Yankees getting their big boys, getting them some key hits, and you started to see Soto who had the game-winning home run to propel the Yankees to the World Series. You had Judge, you had Stanton, you had the guys, Bret, that you've talked about all season long. The Yankees were going to go as far as those bats, and they got the job done.
Well, I've talked about from the beginning too how important Giancarlo Stanton is in that lineup, and we said it all along. Yeah, Soto, Aaron Judge, they're the MVPs. Aaron Judge is going to win the most valuable player, and if it wasn't for Aaron Judge, Soto might win it. You never know. So you've got those guys, but for me, the key to that offense has been all year is a Giancarlo Stanton, a healthy Giancarlo Stanton, because he is such a presence in the middle of that lineup. And we know he goes hot and cold. He looks like for weeks at a time like he's never played baseball before. Then all of a sudden he'll hit 9 home runs in a week. This postseason, he's carried him. He won the ALCS MVP award and came up with some big, unbelievable home runs off Clase for the Cleveland Guardians. I watched that series, Rich, and it was very sloppily played, if that makes sense.
Well,
A
the
lot of
Cleveland Guardians were supposed to be about the bullpen and their defense.
right, and it was kind of the opposite. The Guardians, I think, statistically, led all of baseball when it comes to the bullpen, and their bullpen really let them down in the postseason. They had a much better defensive team than the Yankees did, and that let them down time and time again. The Yankees had a bunch of base running errors. There was a lot of sloppy play, but in the end, there was a lot of heroic, big time hits at the right time. The home runs the home run that Judge hit to tie the game, and then Stanton, they go back to back off Clase. Clase gave up 2 home runs all year. He gave up 2 in the postseason, or I think he gave up 3, something ridiculous. But he was untouchable during the regular season. I think too. I looked at that series. There was a lot of comparisons because the unbelievably great year Clase had. There were comparisons to the great Mariano Rivera. In the postseason, all of a sudden, votes started going to Clase for 2-inning saves, 5-out saves, 6-out saves. Clase got it done a few times, but he's not used to that. Mariano used to play the 162-game schedule. Joe Torre would use them all the time to get a 4-out save, a 5-out save. So Mariano was ready for that. I don't know if Clase was overused, whatever it was, but he just wasn't as sharp as he normally is, and he had a real rough postseason for him.
So some people will say that the American League Championship Series was sloppy. I think it just shows resiliency. I think you saw resiliency from both clubs. The New York Yankees, who had some heartbreak in that series, Cleveland had some heartbreak in that series, and both of them showed resiliency. Both bullpens had faltered at times. Clase had given it up. Weaver had given it up. And I think you got to tip your cap to the resiliency on both ball clubs, the clutch hitting, and then pitchers having some goldfish memories because Weaver got back in there in the seventh inning and finished things off for the New York Yankees.
Yeah, I do, and it's been a real interesting postseason all around. Where the postseason usually comes down to those marquee matchups, those big pitching matchups that we've always had in baseball. Well, it's not like that this postseason. There's no huge in bright lights matchup. There's no Verlander Scherzer matchups anymore. There's no Randy Johnson Pedro Martinez matchups like we've had in years past in Major League Baseball. It's been handed to the bullpen quite a bit, and the starters that do start, they go 4 innings. And they say, "Oh, they did good, they did bad." I'm not used to that in this game. I think uh, with all the excitement, and I love the postseason now. I love the format. I love everything about it. I haven't been disappointed this year. There's been some unbelievable drama, but I do think baseball's got a little. You got to have those starting pitchers, those marquee guys. I think of this postseason, who's the marquee guy? Well, it's supposed to be Yamamoto, but really the only
Do
marquee guy is Garrett Cole. If you're
do
really
do I?
breaking it down,
Do I?
huh?
Do I
Do you
really
what?
have to have that Madison Bumgarner? That's the last horse that I think we can really truly say we saw dominate a postseason, Brett. Because I mean, who would have thunk it that you had openers during the American League and the National League
Right,
Championship Series games? I mean, so the
right.
game has changed a little bit from those horses that you'd always have. You'd have a Randy Johnson that you could count on that he was going to go
Sure.
deep in the bullpen,
You had a John
and
Smoltz.
you had a John Smoltz. You had Smoltz, Glavine, and Maddox.
Right, you had a Verlander, you had a Max Scherzer,
Right.
guys that, hey, when he's pitching, we win. Yes, I think the game is missing that, and I think my opinion, I think the game would be making a mistake if we start going into that. Oh, let's just open with a bullpen guy and make everybody a bullpen guy. I don't think that's a good route for Major League Baseball to go. I really
Well,
don't.
then
And
how in the world do you not have three starters? I just need three starters for a 7-game series. How do you not have three starters on your roster that you could turn to for the
any of them,
playoffs? Any
none
of
of
them.
them did. Well, okay, let's break the two teams down that are in the postseason now. Stroman's on the roster, but Stroman hasn't thrown a pitch yet. He was the third, fourth starter for the Yankees, so they're going to go with they've kind of established this. They're going to go with Garrett Cole.
Garrett Cole,
They're going to go with Rodon,
Rodon.
and they're going to go with Clark Schmidt. And now, if you need a fourth starter, which in a 7-game set you could, you're going to go to Heel, who pitched okay the other day, hadn't pitched,
Right. He hadn't
went
pitched
four, right,
in like
went
30 days.
right. You're going to go with him as your fourth. Now go over to the Dodgers side. You got Flaherty. Flaherty got absolutely lit up his last outing. It was flat. Stuff didn't look that good. He's going to be their number one. I don't know about that being marquee.
Well, then I got
Yamamoto's
Yamamoto, who's been hurt a lot of
Y-
the year.
Yeah, Yamamoto's been hurt. It's his first time over here from Japan, signed a huge deal. He's been hit or miss with me. I've seen him pitch brilliantly in the clinch game against the Padres. He
Right.
hooked up with Darvish. They both pitched wonderful games. Darvish ended up giving up 2 solo shots, and that was the difference. That's why they lost the game. And Yamamoto was great. His last outing, Yamamoto wasn't that great. So you don't know what you're getting with him. Now you go to the third starter with the Dodgers. You got Walker Buehler. Now, Walker Buehler, 2021, that's a marquee guy. Nowadays, we don't know. Last time he went out, pitched pretty good, but what did he go? He went 4 innings. When you're a marquee guy, I expect, hey, he's got the ball for 7 or 8. We're just not seeing that.
So as a hitter, you should be licking your chops, Booney.
Um, sometimes you are, sometimes you're not. Here's what, and I thought this was a good point that John Smoltz made on the telecast tonight. He said these bullpen games, they can go really good or they can go really bad in a heartache, because forever and ever, Major League Baseball, and it's changing now. I'll give you that. But the best pitchers are starting pitchers. And then when they're not good enough to start, they go to the bullpen. Well, now
Right.
they're starting to the culture has changed where sometimes you're started as a bullpen guy. So the game has changed, but
Sure.
usually push comes to shove. Where's all the big money go, Rich?
Starting
To the
pitching.
number one
But
starter.
if you're
Why?
good enough, okay, why? Because you're gonna eat up more innings.
Because you're the best pitcher. You're the
Well,
best of the
you're
best.
more
Relievers aren't
valuable.
the best.
Well,
Correct.
well, okay. It was put to me this way by Andrew Friedman. I asked him one day when I worked with him, and he said, who's going to give me more production? A starter who goes 5, 6 innings for 35 starts, or a closer that gives me 1 inning? I'm going to get more innings out of that starting pitcher. That's where I want to put my best pitcher. So now, like you said, we have guys in the minor leagues that are specializing as relief pitchers. So the consistency, and really the difference between a starting pitcher and a guy in the bullpen is consistency. Starting pitcher is consistent, and I could count on him. Guy in the bullpen, if he was more consistent, he'd be a starter.
Right. And I think in this postseason, Mania was great. And you're talking about Mania for the Mets. He's probably in the big picture out of all these playoff teams, all these rounds. Mania's probably been the most reliable. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Mania, what do you think of Mania? You don't think him as a marquee number one guy, right? He's a 3 guy. He was the most reliable in either league for the
Right.
entire postseason. Mania. Now, Cole had a good one. Cole had a rough one. So Cole's not that guy that you're relying on. Rodon has a rough one, then he has a good one. You kind of never know what you're going to get. And this is the first time in a long time I don't remember having a go-to guy where you go, oh, he's pitching tonight, they're in trouble. Any matchup, all those names we named on the Dodgers side and on the Yankees side, not one time would I say, oh, if he's pitching, they're going to win.
Right.
Not one time have I said that. Dodgers pitched 4 shutouts in the postseason. 4 shutouts. I want to see how many shutouts they had during the regular season, 162 games. To have 4 9-inning shutouts in the postseason, that's big time. That's a tribute, and most of those have been bullpen games.
Okay, so let me tell everybody as we're coming to you on a Monday after the National League Championship Series is decided on Sunday night, American League Championship Series decided on Saturday night. A quick reminder for you, Bret and I are going to do something kind of different, something kind of special. We're going to host the Bret Boone podcast live for the World Series Game 1. We're going to be on YouTube, Bret.
We are. It's going to be a scary moment, Rich. Are you ready for the big stage?
I am. So what we're going to do, folks, I want to give you a heads up for those that listen to the podcast. Bret and I will stream live on YouTube and maybe even some other platforms that we'll throw in there as well. We're going to have some guests join us, and we're going to have a second screen content for you. So if you're watching the game on Fox and you're listening to Smoltz, you can also listen to Bret and some of our friends that we're going to have join us, and we'll have a running commentary of the game as well. We're not going to show you the play-by-play. Can't do that. Don't have the rights. But we are going to follow the game along, and you could join us on YouTube to watch the games, and you can ask us questions. We'll have the chat box open. So that's Friday. I want to remind everybody an opportunity to watch us on YouTube on the Bret Boone channel, the Bret Boone podcast channel that we have.
And I will tell the audience out there listening now, whoever the guests may be, I won't reveal who the guests are going to be, but
They're
I run them
big
by
names.
Rich.
Yeah.
I run them by Rich and see what his reaction is. So by the way, I'm going to kind of hedge towards ex-Yankees, ex-Dodgers to get the perspective from the two franchises. So the guys that do appear, that Rich was a behind-the-scenes fanboy and he was pushing for him. So those who the guests will be.
So this is the first time in, I think, 43 years the Dodgers and the Yankees have matched up in the World Series. They've gotten together. I think it's the most. I saw this on MLB.com today. This is the most matchups between two teams in the playoffs. 11 times these two teams have gotten together. The Yankees have won 8 of them. The Dodgers have won 3. Couple of famous ones is 1955, the Dodgers' first championship. They also won in 1981 behind Fernando Valenzuela, the year of Fernando Mania. So this is one of those classic matchups. And you talked about it, and we're going to hear a bunch of clowns say this on social media. Oh, baseball fixed it because they wanted to have the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. That's not the case. So I'm going to ask Bret, is the New York Yankees make it? And we're going to break down the Dodgers here in just a moment. But the Yankees made it number 1 seed in the American League. Dodgers, best record in baseball. That's why they get home field advantage. It's going to be 2-3-2 for the World Series format. Do we have the best 2 teams playing for the championship of baseball?
There could be a hard argument made for both.
That's a big pregnant pause right there, buddy.
Well, because I'm really I thought the San Diego Padres were a superior team to the LA
You and
Dodgers.
Tyler both, I think, picked the Padres.
I did. I think Houston with the quick exit. I thought, you know what I thought? I thought when Cleveland and the Yankees got together, I thought that was the best matchup because they were, Yankees had more star power. Cleveland had the bullpen. Cleveland had the defense,
right?
Which both faltered but I thought that was a good matchup. But in the end, with those 2 teams, I think the better team made it. The Yankees did, yes. Now move over to once San Diego was out of the picture, and I see LA Dodgers versus the Mets. LA Dodgers definitely, I think, is the better team. So I think there could be arguments
162
made.
games. 162 games. Do I have the best 2 teams in baseball playing for the World Series?
Maybe. The Padres are the wild card for me.
Padres had them down 2-0.
But I'll tell you this: you know why the system worked out really good this year is because you're right. They're both number 1 seeds. The Yankees won the American League East, the toughest division in the American League.
Right.
The Dodgers won the National League West. They had the best record in baseball.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of the 162 having some serious weight. So the fact that both of them won their respective divisions and they're meeting in the World Series, there can be a really good argument that the 2 best teams are there. But I don't know with the Padres being my wild card.
Well, let me throw this out at you then, because I kind of described your brother's ride through the playoffs because, we were like, wow, look how great the Yankees got off to the start during the podcast. Right. And then come about the All-Star break, some injuries start coming. They were very healthy at the beginning of the year. Then some injuries start, and they start to slip a little bit. Baltimore makes a run, and you go on WFAN, and the callers are like, let's fire Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone's a bum. Get rid of him. And you said, stay the course, chill out. It's 162 games. They're going to be fine, and they were. Let me go over to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, remember, the Yankees were supposed to do this. This is not a surprise that the Yankees are in the World Series. They have Soto. They've got Judge. They've got Stanton. They've got Garrett Cole. They brought in Jazz Chisholm in a big trade.
Chisholm's been.
They have Stroman. I mean, they've added the parts they needed to get Brian Cashman.
They've had a power bullpen. A little faltering down the stretch.
But on paper, when they got together in Tampa, we thought they were supposed to be here. So they were supposed to be here. Brian Cashman, great job putting together a team that made it to the World Series. But there was a lot of pressure on Aaron, and there were some people that were whispering, Aaron doesn't win this year. He's on the hot seat. Fair enough?
I think fair enough. Now, as an analyst and then the brother, I think it's both. They're both ridiculous. Because I watch Aaron as a brother and go, he's done a hell of a job for this Yankee ball club. And if you watch closely, the injuries that he's dealt with over the past 5-6 years have been unbelievable. And they've gone to the postseason all but 1 year that he's been there. Now, New York is different.
As a talk show host,
World Series or bust. I get it. But I laugh thinking, oh yeah, it's Aaron's fault. You look over in LA, and they've had a lot of money in that franchise. Well, let's talking about Roberts.
Let me walk through the Dodgers season then. The Dodgers, add the 2 biggest stars that you could possibly add this season to their repertoire. Shohei Ohtani comes over from the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, and they go out and get Yamamoto, who was the biggest free agent coming over from Japan. So they had these 2 monster contracts. People are complaining Shohei backloaded all of his money so they can afford Yamamoto as well. So the Dodgers had added everything that David Roberts could possibly need, possibly want, and they've got Mookie, they've got everybody. So Dave Roberts, same thing, high expectations. Dodgers get off to the great lead. Dodgers are going to run away with this thing. Dodgers run into the wall. Padres come over. They take over first place. People are starting to get all over Dave Roberts, who he's one of your neighbors. They get all over Doc. He's been on the podcast before. We know him. All of a sudden, like, hey, if Dave Roberts doesn't get to the World Series this year, he's out. The Dodgers have spent all this money, and they've got nothing to show for it.
Right.
The Dodgers, in a lot of ways, their season was very similar to the New York Yankees. Lots of expectations, hit a wall towards halfway through the season. Another team took over first place for a while. People start whispering, but over 162 and this deep playoff, you can't hide your flaws. And the best teams, I think, come out on top.
Well, too, and the Dodgers they're short. They don't have a team that they expect they have. They expected to have Tyler Glasnow at the top of the rotation, and he's on the injury list. They expect. I don't think they expected Kershaw to be their marquee 1 or 2 guy, but they expected to have a Clayton Kershaw at the back end of that rotation.
It is a 4 and 5, right?
He's been unavailable, right? Yamamoto giving him that kind of money in free agency. You expected him to be a number 1 top of the rotation guy. Well, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt because he was injured for 2.5 months, and we don't know how that shoulder really is. But on paper, yes. So now it's coming down to the Dodgers that we're going to have Glasnow, Yamamoto, Kershaw in the mix. All of a sudden, it's Jack Flaherty, and will he pitch good? Will he not pitch good? Yamamoto. So they're not quite the Dodgers that we expected coming out of spring training.
Don't forget Walker Buehler, who had a lot on his plate as well.
Without a doubt, I didn't even. Well, I mentioned Walker Buehler, but the Buehler of before his Tommy John surgery, and I believe now he's had 2. Was a nasty number 1 guy, an Oral Hershiser, to use the Dodgers as an example, of 1989. That was Walker Buehler. I mean, he was that guy you didn't want to face. Walker Buehler's shown that a human side to him where he's vulnerable, and he's been vulnerable. But then again, coming back from Tommy John, does he need this going into spring training next year? Will he be the old Walker Buehler we're used to? So I think on paper, yes, the Dodgers were, but they're not the team on paper that we thought we were going to see now. Next year, Shohei's going to be in the mix. He's going to be back on the mound. I've seen him warming up and teasing us.
Right.
Wouldn't getting loose to the outfield.
It's not going to happen. Wouldn't it be something if they had to use him? Now, and again, remember, the Yankees offensively were struggling a little bit. Let's be honest. They make some changes. Second baseman goes to the leadoff spot. That seemed to get the offense going. They go out and make the trade, and they get Jazz Chisholm to come over for the Marlins. The Dodgers make the move to add pitching. They bring in Flaherty as well. So both general managers, Brian Cashman and Andrew Friedman, had the best teams on paper. The teams, and it's baseball. So we're not playing 162 games on PlayStation. We're playing them in real life. They both had to make some adjustments. Both managers had to make some adjustments. Both managers had to make some adjustments in the lineups. You remember that Mookie Betts was going to be the everyday shortstop. They had to make some moves around. And both managers were able to steer and get their teams to the World Series. So in a lot of ways, these Yankees and Dodgers both have so much in common other than the 11 times they met in the World Series. They both had kind of similar scripts.
Yeah. And you know, as much as I like to push the Padres, because I really thought the Padres were going to beat LA, and they had their number during the regular season. That's why they
beat them, and they beat them last year.
Yeah, and they had them 2-1 in the series prior. But yeah, I mean, start to finish, Yankees were in first place all year. Yeah, they flip-flopped with the Orioles a little bit, but they pulled away at the end. Dodgers pretty much in first place all year. So, yeah, the argument is
the resilient teams.
Right, these were 2 of the best teams in baseball, and they're sitting here at the end going to the World Series. And I'm happy as heck for my brother that he got there, because I know he was feeling it. You know, when you're a Yankee or you're a Dodger and they poured that kind of money into your payroll, believe me, that those expectations, even though you're the manager and you don't hit and you don't throw a pitch, a lot of the blame goes to you when the players don't get it done. So definitely they feel it. So I felt great for Aaron when because I know this is all, since he's got into this side of managing. That's the goal. What's the goal? Especially in New York, get to that World Series and win a World Series. And he's been just short a few times. So this is a pretty special moment. When I saw him last night, celebrating a little bit. That was cool. And Brian Roberts too. He's
Doc
man,
Roberts.
that's pressure.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, Doc Roberts. The pressure being in LA with that huge payroll, a huge offseason signings they brought into LA. There's the pressures is close to the Yankees as you could be. People on the East Coast, and when I do WFAN, I laugh at them. I call them they're lunatics. You guys are unrealistic in New York. You guys are crazy. You think it's Babe Ruth and it's 1927 and you win every year. Well, the parody's a little different, but that's also what makes New York great. They have such high expectations, and those fans are so passionate. There's nothing like a postseason in New York when that weather changes, and there's definitely nothing like a World Series in the Bronx. Marquee matchup is going to be very cool.
Well, okay, so that's the other part of it is between the two of us, we know everybody involved in this. You look at the general manager and manager relationship. I know what it's like with Cash and your brother, and I think we know how tight Dave Roberts and Andrew Friedman are, and it just seems like they got them the pieces and let them do their job. And it's remarkable that both of them got there because not often do you get the number one seeds make it through a tournament, especially as deep as this one is. So let me ask you this, because Bret Boone's going to go on, I don't know, I think we're going to book you on about 5,000 radio stations this week. And you're going to have the national media calling you because they're all going to want to write a story about your brother and your family. So are you ready for that?
Sure. We're used to it at this stage.
And by the way,
they'll call Aaron's brother. No. Or is it the other way around? Aaron's my brother.
Yeah, they'll call Aaron's brother.
Aaron used to be Bret's brother. Now I'm Aaron's brother.
Aaron's brother. Well, okay. So, by the way, for all the national media, you should also ask Mr. Boone about Dave Roberts because you know Dave as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we tell the story.
Dave.
Right. Huh? We tell the story. You and Trevor were coaching a travel ball team.
Mm-hmm.
You, Trevor, were coaching a travel ball team. And you guys would have practice or you guys would work out.
Oh, no. Oh,
no, this is hitting?
Is in modern. Oh, okay. This is with David. Dave has a son,
right?
That I believe, I don't know if he's still in college. He might be out of college now, but he's a college baseball player. The Hoffmans,
right?
Which was Wyatt Hoffman was down there.
Yep.
Quinn Hoffman was down there at the time. Quinn was playing at Harvard, and Jakey. So they'd come back.
Who's playing at Princeton? How did you guys get such smart kids?
I don't know. I really don't.
It skips
well,
a generation.
Bob Boone, Stanford guy. Yeah.
There you go.
So just in the off season, the guys would all come down and
down to San Diego.
Kotze, managing now for the Oakland A's. Well, soon to be not Oakland A's, but Oakland A's. So Kotze would be on one knee. Yeah. He'd be on one knee hitting fungos and Trevor'd be out there kind of running the show. Dave would be over in the corner and I'd be sitting on the bucket just looking at all these guys running around going, what are you doing?
Could you imagine?
Occasionally they would call me out.
Soft toss.
Hey, Booty, can you give these guys an example of some footwork around the bag? I said, oh, now I'm important, huh? Because I'm the only real infielder here. You got Kotze, an outfielder, David Roberts, an outfielder, Hoffy, a closer, and you got the only real infielder doing nothing, watching all the kids get hit ground balls.
So for anybody in the national media that wants a good story about the World Series, and you can ask Bret about either his brother or running drills with Dave Roberts, Mark Kotze, and Trevor Hoffman.
More of it. Trevor and myself, when we first retired, we took our kids out. And we coached a travel ball team for 3 or 4 years, and we had a bunch of rude awakenings. We thought it was going to be great. And all the parents were going to be wonderful.
It's awful.
And after a while, we just sat there. And I remember Trev coming up to me. I used to coach third. He used to coach first. And then we had a manager that would handle the emails and the parents and all the
stuff.
And one day he came up to me, he goes, Booney, are we doing something wrong? So what do you mean? He goes, why do all these players, some players, they're coming, they're going, they're leaving. I found out real quick that to coach travel ball, certain kids, if they're not hitting third, fourth, playing short and pitching all at the same time, they're not happy and they're going to another team. So after a while, we got wise and we started recruiting parents and not. We recruited really good players and great parents. We didn't need to have all the star players because they're a problem. They're divas, even at age 12. Trust me, they're divas. They'll go play on another team. They won't show up because they're not happy with exactly where they're playing at every
Right.
time. So we started getting smart and we started recruiting parents. We got wonderful parents and the kids that were good players, and we had a blast. But that first year was tough sledding for us because we didn't know the landscape.
I didn't know
We're
you
coming
back then. I could have told you all that.
we're coming off the field thinking, oh, it's us. They're gonna be happy that we're their coaches. Oh, that
Nope.
lasted for about 5 minutes when we met them, and then after that, it was, why isn't my kid hitting third?
What do you know about baseball?
Exactly.
Okay. So, like we said, quick reminder to everybody, we're going to be doing a live stream, second screen. So you watch the game on your television and then watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us. And we've got some pretty big names we're going to have join us during the World Series. We're going to do game one coming up on that Friday night from Dodger Stadium. Brett will be at his house.
Rich,
and,
I've really got to do this now, right?
Yes,
You're
absolutely. We did a beta test last week, and it was okay. I enjoyed it. I don't know if you did.
It was long.
Yeah. Now you know what it's like. Now you know what it's like to do this for real.
No, it's simple. Doing it for real is simple. When you're at the game and you got to do the play-by-play and the color, that's not a big deal. But I'll tell you what, this hybrid that you're talking about, where you're telling stories, you're watching, you got 4 different people with 4 different TVs. You're not at the game, so everybody's not picking up the action at the same time. It's different. If you're at the game that's much less.
I will tell everybody.
Well, because Rich
Bret's an Emmy award-winning broadcaster. I have to throw that out.
And Rich, it's like Rich will be like, oh, and he got another hit. I'm like, Rich, my TV hasn't got a hit yet.
You just have to follow me.
Those were the challenges for our hybrid,
right?
But we're realizing the YouTube version, or the watch parties, I think the kids call them now. They're more of a storytelling. We're not gonna give you the booth.
No, that's
experience.
Joe Davis and Smoltz are doing that. We're doing something different.
We're gonna give you something different. So we'll see. Check it out on Friday. It'll be pretty cool. On YouTube. And we'll have some good guests, and maybe we'll get some interesting stories, and we won't bore you too much.
So we're gonna put you on all these radio stations this week.
You're not putting me anywhere.
I'm going to start booking. I'm getting calls like, yeah, can you help me get Bret? Absolutely. It's Iowa. I'll get you on with Bret Boone.
Yeah. No, you're not.
Tierra del Fuego.
Hey, no.
London, England. You want Booney? Great. Here's his number. I'll get you on.
Rich, I'm going to take you. I'm going to block your number on my call. You're going to have to email me if you want to get a hold of me.
Listen, he's going to be so busy, folks. I couldn't even get him to join me on the Infinity Sports Network. I put Tyler Kepner on this week.
He's one of our favorites
on this week.
One of our favorites.
So you're gonna be asked to go on all these radio stations. Let's just work on this right now for the podcast. 3 storylines for the World Series off the top of your head that we're going to look at. 3 storylines. Who are the big stars that we're going to look at, and why does make this compelling? Because we do have star power in this World Series.
Right. Well, it's obviously going to be Judge and Soto. And it's going to be Ohtani and Betts. And is Freeman going to be healthy enough to get back on the field? Is Yamamoto the guy that they thought they signed when on the big stage? That's going to be interesting. How does Flaherty hold up? Garrett Cole's not getting any younger. This is, I'm not saying that he's at the end of his career, but is Garrett Cole going to be the horse that was the Cy Young a year ago? There's a lot of storylines. I look at the Yankees bullpen. Dodgers bullpen's been really good in this postseason. The Yankees bullpen was good, but a little bit shaky. Will the Yankees bullpen continue to be a factor? I think there's a lot of things. How will Rodon, how will he shine? Heel, the young kid who can be dominant, but he's got a tendency to walk a lot of guys. There's so many storylines. Does Walker Buehler step up? A lot of interesting.
Stanton and Judge, how are they going?
Does Stanton keep it going?
Soto's a free agent at the end of the year. How much extra money is he going to make by having a monster World Series?
Yeah.
Mookie Betts.
Right.
Mookie Betts needs one.
I don't think there's 3 storylines where I can give them to you, bam, 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 and you go, yeah, Those are the three because there's so many.
That's why this
There's
is going to be a
6, there's
compelling
7.
World Series.
It's going to be.
The two managers, how do they react? I think that's going to be fun to watch. How does Aaron, who's been, both of them got plenty of playoff experience. Dave Roberts has got experience. Aaron Boone's got experience. I think that's going to be interesting to see how those two run the game in the World Series.
Oh, it'll run itself.
Yeah, but no, hold on. No, wait a minute. No.
The prep work going into it, yes.
Right, but we also have seen, and we applaud Bruce Bochy for going against the book and using his gut in last year's World Series. Somewhere along the line, Doc or Arnie are going to have to make a move against the book and use, because the sample size is so small. And we talked about that sense of urgency. Both of them are going to, at one point, there's going to be a tipping point. They're going to have to make a call.
And I always talk about that. Managers, that's the difference between a good manager and a great. You want to be great, you got to manage with your gut. And use all the technology we have today at your fingers. You'd be a fool not to take that all in. But when push comes to shove, when the game's on the line, it's still baseball. It's still the heartbeat of the player. It's still knowing your players, who to trust, who not to trust in certain situations. And I think greatness comes from gut feelings and gut decisions. Anybody can go out there and just play the computer, and that's the safe way to go. And after
we've seen that before. We've seen
after
that
the
before
game, we can go in there. Oh yeah, the computer did say this, so you're right, sir.
Well, we've seen it with Dave Roberts.
You want to be great,
before.
you got to go. You got to go against the computer to be great.
Well, Dave Roberts, when they won during the COVID year, won against the book, won against everything the Dodgers have ever done, and got as far as he did, but it was just going against it. We saw Bochy do it. So there's going to be a point in time where both of them are going to make a gut decision. I can't wait to see that, because both of them have been through this.
I hope Aaron makes the better decision.
Well, of course, I'm a Giants fan. I'm not rooting for. I'm rooting for Uncle Arnie. I'm rooting for Arnie. I wore a Yankee hat the other day.
Well, this is where my job gets tough, because I am, me, I play it down the middle. It's just Aaron's in the situation. I always have to be honest and frank when it comes to the Yankees, and I'm not always friendly to the Yankees. I got to tell it like I see it. But in this World Series, the brother part of me is going to be.
I would expect.
Trying to be professional, but pulling for Arnie.
Screw that. I want you.
Without a doubt.
Screw that. We're pulling for Arnie.
Absolutely. I'm always pulling for him, but this is a little different stage. This is where I think I'm allowed to kind of pull for him.
Okay, so I wasn't going to bring this up, but you brought it up. How cool is it just watching your little brother on that stage, and he's standing there getting interviewed, wearing that cap, wearing that T-shirt, and
no, I know what's
you had a chance to talk to him, right?
I talked to him this morning. He was watching football with his son, and but I can tell, Aaron wears it on his sleeve when he calls me. I can tell by the tone of his voice how he's feeling. I know he's giddy. He's like a teenager right now. But I know how passionate he is, and I know how hard and the time he puts in, and the blood, sweat, and tears.
We see he wears stress on his face.
Yeah, because he wears it, and he's like my dad, and they're two peas in a pod when it comes to this. They're very similar. They care so much. They get to the ballpark at noon, and they have 72 different scenarios, and they want to win so bad. So I know how he's feeling, and it's cool because he's still at heart. I look at Aaron, and I just see that 8-year-old kid, and he's emotionally, he is the same way.
Yeah,
I mean, he's grown up a little bit, but that little kid in him is still. I know the feeling he got when they clinched. Like, all right, finally we got there, but now only half the job's over. The pressure of getting to the World Series is off his chest now. But now you got to win a World Series. So I'm just really happy for him. I think mom and dad are happy. They watch his games all year, so it'll be cool.
And if you think about both these managers, they've been on the big stage and they've done big things. Arnie is still hated in Boston,
for
his home run that you were in the booth that you won an Emmy for, And Dave had that stolen base after Bill Miller got the base hit. Dave stole second, and that was
Right.
part of the Red Sox big comeback.
Well, right. Right. It's kind of interesting. Different moments, the home run versus the bag, but that bag was one of the
Yeah,
biggest stolen bases in the history of baseball. And it's the reversal. It's like Boston loves Dave and hates Aaron, and New York hates Dave and loves Aaron.
right.
Now they love Aaron now. Aaron's a week to week thing. I laugh. I laugh.
Well, I
It's
know,
like
and you're going to go on
you
WFAN. You're
you
going to go
win.
on
Oh,
both flagships.
I'll wear them out.
Yeah,
You win 3 in a row, and he's the greatest thing in the world. You lose another 2, and get rid of him. It cracks. That's what makes New York, New York.
listen.
It wouldn't be New York. I wouldn't expect anything else.
Hey, I've been a talk show host for 30 years. That's how we make our living.
Yep.
It's
Give
me a final thought. Give me a final thought.
Final thought. I don't know.
Okay, there you
it's
go.
almost
That's good.
Here's my final. I was actually hoping the Mets would win today because it extends. That's a long time from
You get extra
Sunday to
playoff, yeah.
Friday. That's 5 days. I've been
Right.
used to watching ball games every day, and I got good excuses. I don't have to do any chores. I don't have to be here or be. Hey, I got the game tonight.
Right.
Now for 5 days, when Krista asked me, "What are you doing?" I don't have that built in. Hey, I got a game.
You got to get ready. You got to get ready for a live stream.
I can't go have coffee with you and your buddies.
We got to get ready for the
now.
live stream.
I don't have that. Yeah,
we got to get ready for the live stream.
That's right.
We're doing live. We're having production meetings. Getting ready. Yeah, we're getting ready for that.
We're moving and shaking.
All right, that's going to do it for Quick Hits with Boone on this Monday. We do have a couple special podcasts coming up. So this is today's show. And then coming up, we're going to release it tomorrow. We're going to go outside the box and have a different guest on the podcast coming up.
Sir Earl Toon just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with Kool and the Gang. He wrote Celebration. And by the way, they were just interviewing, I believe it was Mookie Betts on the field after they just clinched. And guess what was playing?
Celebration.
Yeah,
that's why we're going to put him on.
Toon,
yeah,
Sir Earl Toon. He wrote Celebration. He wrote Ladies' Night. A lot of the iconic songs for Kool and the Gang. So we're going to change the pace up a little bit. I think I'm going to put that out Tuesday as a special. We usually go Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're going to have a special Sir Earl Toon from Kool and the Gang Tuesday edition. So that'll be pretty cool.
So we're going to have lots of Bret Boone on the radio across the country this week. Oh, look, I just got a new. Yeah, absolutely. You want to put Bret on in Caracas, Venezuela? Absolutely. He'd love to go on the show, talk about the World Series.
Well, because they know I'm bilingual.
Yeah. I'm just going to shut up now before we get in trouble. Don't forget, Friday, Game 1 will be on YouTube. Look up the Bret Boone podcast, and you can watch the game along with us. Comment. We'll have a comment section. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's it. We're ready for the World Series. Game 1 comes up on Friday. It'll be the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Dodgers. 11 times they've gotten together in the Fall Classic. Everything's on the line. It's I Love LA versus New York, New York. It's Randy Newman versus Frank Sinatra, the Big Apple versus Hollywood. And we're going to have all the details coming up here on the Bret Boone podcast, Bret.
No, I think it's not Sinatra now. Is Sinatra, you calling that LA or New York?
No, Sinatra, when the Yankees win, they play New York, New York by Sinatra.
Oh, okay.
Right? And then when the Dodgers win, I thought we were
play going coast to coast, because now you got the Rob Lowe's and Brad Pitts from LA, and it's
Mary Hart.
The Billy Crystal, and
Tom Hanks was there, even though Tom Hanks used to work in Oakland. You know what he did in Oakland? Did you know that he worked there in the Coliseum? He was a vendor.
No, all the clowns come out when the lights get bright. Oh, look at me, I'm here. Yeah, go back to your acting.
No,
studio.
Billy Crystal's going to be hanging out in your brother's office all week.
I wouldn't let him in.
No, we want him on the podcast. Of course, we want him in.
Oh, Billy, yeah, we want you. We love you.
Yeah, we want him on the podcast. Anyway, that's going to do it for our podcast for today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bret, I'll let you say goodbye.
See you guys. Check it out. We'll see you Friday. It's going to be a great series.